Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of LFC Transfer Room. It's the Saturday Night Club, and it is the first time in a long time that we are not going to talk about transfers. We are not going to talk about who Liverpool should bring in, who they should sell, what FFG have or haven't done. I've really looked forward to this one for a long time. I'm so glad that the window's shut and we can put all of that behind us, apart from the contracts going on behind the scenes that need to get done. The big three. We are just purely talking about football here today. So please do join us. We are not going to talk about transfers. The window's shut. Liverpool did what they did or didn't do. And we're not going to go into that too much because it's done. Okay. The window's shut. We have, in my opinion, our biggest game of the season away at Old Trafford. That's a fixture that I personally always look to. Manchester United ruined my childhood for about 20 years. And if you are of the, I might look 21, but I am actually 36. If you look at my generation, Manchester United ruined a lot of our hearts. So, you know, for me, always look at Manchester United away at Old Trafford and think it's a massive, massive game. So hopefully tonight, you know, we are going to talk and break down this match preview because it is a huge, huge game. And again, you know, for me, biggest one of the season. You can put your Man Cities away. You can put your Arsenals away. Everton to a certain extent as well. I know there's a history there, but Man United is always the one to look out for. Is that the same for you, Colin?
Yeah, I'm closer to your age than I am to some of our listeners. I think I keep seeing Twitter accounts pop up that are like legitimately they're like 16-year-olds, and I'm like I unfortunately cannot relate to them. I mean, United away is quite possibly my favorite fixture of the year, even though it in a lot of ways is the most challenging. My favorite recent game that Liverpool played was the 5-0 away. Like there's just a pure sort of joy in beating them at home, beating them at their home. And you know, my favorite all-time Liverpool away kit is the Torres long sleeve gray checkered away. Like, so I have a lot of fondness for this very difficult fixture, but I expect leading towards where we're going, I expect a win. I expect a big performance from us.
Yeah, and you mentioned the record. Really, Liverpool don't travel that well, if I'm honest, to Old Trafford in the grand scheme of things, and I don't think they have really done it in recent years. Liverpool have, though, just lost only one of the last 6 Premier League away meetings, and they've won 7 Premier League games at Old Trafford in total, a tally bettered only by Manchester City's 9. So no real club enjoys going to Old Trafford, especially, you know, if you were in the late 90s, you know, early 2000s. I think Manchester United, that was the theatre of dreams. The theatre of screams it might be now, but it's still such a tough game away. Jurgen struggled there apart from the 5-0. You know, we saw obviously the FA Cup last year that we won't talk about too much as well. And Stitches, it's a game that no matter what form teams are in, no matter what, Liverpool could be woeful. And we've seen them throughout the years where Man United have absolutely dominated, but Liverpool go and get result. We saw it last year where Manchester United were woeful and they got results. So again, form goes out the window, and Old Trafford is a completely different animal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, this is the game that I look forward to the most in the season, but it's also the game that gives me the most anxiety because anything goes, anything can happen. You know, we could be absolutely flying and then go to Old Trafford and it just doesn't happen. I've got most recent memories on the clock is us absolutely annihilating them, and then they were dropping like flies. They got injuries, and then under Solskjaer they got injuries, and then all of a sudden, like they made a couple of changes, and I think it affected our game plan because we couldn't play after that. And you'd think we'd run over them. I mean, the same last season. I really think the results against them, not only in the league but in the cups as well, really took our momentum, completely stole our momentum for us. So this is one that gives me trepidations, right? But I'm glutton for punishment because I look forward to it. It's crazy. It's like, you know, hide behind the sofa behind your hands, but still watch what's going on. And, you know, just it's tense, and it impacts my emotions, leading into the day. It impacts my emotions. I'm either going to have had a good weekend or not based on that result, right? My kids might have to avoid me for a few hours if it doesn't go our way. It's just that kind of game, like more than any game on the calendar. And I absolutely need us to win tomorrow. I think you're absolutely right when you say it's the biggest test that we will have had this season. In a kind of weird way, I think it suits us to be going away first. And I say
pressure's off
because a little bit. The pressure's off. We're the ones with the new manager. They're at home, so they're gonna have to come at us a little bit, which I think suits us better, or has done in the past. I don't know on the clock. On the slot, it might be a bit different now. But they did the low block thing against us, and then hit us on the break with the pace of Rashford, and they're wide wingers who are quite pacey. So I don't know. Tactically, it's going to be a very interesting game. I've kind of put behind me what happened in pre-season, which it's United, so you still want to win, but it's pre-season, so I'm kind of trying to say, forget that game. Don't use that as any kind of indicator of what's going to happen. And then, without being a doom and gloom merchant, looking at the record between Slot and their board manager, it's a bit worrying because I don't think he's ever beaten him in a competitive game. But that being said, it's the caveat that he's never had a team that's supposed to beat his team. So this would be the first time that he's got a team or a squad that is expected to go there and get a result against him. So look, it's all on the line. It's it's going to be very, very interesting, and I'm looking forward to it, but also shitting my pants.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are right. Slot never beat Seven Haag, obviously, the 7-0, not Ten Hag. Slot never beat Ten Hag's Ajax team with Feyenoord. However, he did beat him with his AZ team twice.
Did he?
So,
okay.
Yeah, they've
that's
played
good.
4 times. Yeah, they played 4 times right. And they've got 2 wins each. But again, in more recent times, Ten Hag has the upper hand because he has beaten Slot's Feyenoord in the 21-22 season. So you are right.
That's good.
I mean, it's 2-2 at the minute. And do you know this will be the first Premier League game between 2 Dutch coaches since February 2016. And it's not a quiz night tonight because I would have said who are the 2 Dutch coaches. But it was Gus Hiddink's Chelsea and Ronald Koeman's Southampton. So it's the first time in nearly a decade that 2 Dutch coaches would have faced off against each other. And listen, Stitches, my wife actually really likes it when Liverpool play Manchester United because for 2-3 hours beforehand, I go around this house and I tidy everything. I hoover, I polish, I dust, I clean, just because I have to keep my mind off it. I don't watch any build-up. I get a nice little alert with the lineups. And then that's it, because I can't sit down and watch. And
can't do the build up.
Nah, I'll be in the garden. I think it's going to be really nice tomorrow. So I'll be in the garden, like just doing endless jobs, just trying to procrastinate until kickoff, because it's just I'm the same as you. It flips my whole week, if I'm honest. As everyone knows who are long-time listeners to the Saturday Night Club, I'm a school teacher, secondary school teacher. We go back to school this week. I cannot go back to school on the first week back after 6 weeks.
Oh no!
With little Man United fans.
We got to send you off with a win. We absolutely have to.
Because if not, it's going to be the week from hell with all these Man United fans around Cambridge, Peterborough area.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing though the impact it has on your life? It's crazy.
100%.
So my kids play academy football, and they've got a fixture tomorrow against Charlton, right? So I'm going to be doing that in the daytime, and they could win, right? Which you'd assume would put me on a high, and they could win, but then if the result doesn't go, it's like the whole weekend's ruined. It's just completely, it doesn't matter. It's weird. It's weird, but I understand it.
Yeah, it is. It's too much emotion. My favorite game of the season, but the worst when you can lose. There's nothing better than beating United, and there's nothing worse than losing to them either. Jay asked Gravenberch or Ugarte. Obviously, we're all saying Gravenberch, and just a bit of team news. Ugarte didn't register in time. I think he had to register by 12 or half 12 yesterday, so he will not be in the squad. And let's face it, they have lost McTominay as well, who I thought was an all right player, if I'm honest. I know that they've had to sell him for certain reasons, but I think that's a bit of a loss. if I'm
Big loss.
honest, in terms of depth. So, yes, Ugarte going forwards will probably be a bigger gain. But yeah, in terms of tomorrow, again, it just little things like that make a very, very big difference. So, yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I will get into the comments as well, and we are going to break things down. So please do keep on putting things in there. And if we don't get around to it just yet, I promise that we will try to, because we're going to go back to front. Okay, we're going to talk about the Liverpool, Manchester United defence / goalkeepers, who are, I suppose, a little bit at polar opposites this season, and I think last season as well. Looking at Alisson Becker, we're looking at one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Onana, not quite there yet. In fact, Manchester United have conceded more 90th minute goals in the Erik ten Hag era than they have ever before. Colin, why do you think that is? Looking at Manchester United, why do you think they do switch off and concede? We saw it against Brighton, didn't we, with the João Pedro goal last week? Why do you think that is? And do you think that could be a factor for tomorrow, where Liverpool last season famously scored so many late goals from the 76th minute onwards? I think we were, if not the highest, one of the highest teams to score in that period.
Yeah, I think the short of it is that I think Manchester United have been for quite a while a very mentally feeble team. I think they're a feeble club in terms of mentality. I don't think that they have a collective togetherness or vision for how to, and I think that this affects defense more than it affects any sort of attacking sense. That when you have a collective vision of how you need to play, it helps to be that organization defensively in particular. I think that this club and this team have just kind of paid, it's been pretty well documented. They're paying for larger names, regardless of what stats might be hindering them or what kind of the data and analytics say. They're picking players because, I think Casemiro is a perfect example of this. So someone who is clearly past their prime, although plays in a position that they needed at the time, just does not put in performances or put in quality performances in the way that they need it. So the only way I think that United had been able to play against us up until this year against Klopp is to do something like, we're going to sit as many people behind the ball as possible. It makes defending easier, frankly. You just have more bodies in that area, and it helps to keep it out. I think Arne Slot's Liverpool team is more suited to teams that are going to want to do that anyways. I think that the tactical matchup favors us if United decide that they want to set up that way again. I suspect it will be a little more on the front foot, and they'll want to have a little bit more possession, but I don't know that they have the player skill sets to be able to do what they want. I think Ugarte is going to be a big miss for them against us tomorrow. I think they would really be bolstered by that. I think we can say whatever we want about his ball playing ability. He puts in defensive action, and is quite good at it. His forward distribution not as high of a prowess, but I don't think he would need to necessarily against us. So I find it something that I'm happy that he won't be playing. I think he's better than their options that they have. To your point, Richie, Scott McTominay was so clutch for them last year. I spent a lot. They're on constantly here in the States. They always have them on the main broadcasts. So I spend a lot of time Schadenfreude, hate watching them, because I'm really hoping for something bad to happen. And they got out of the amount of times that Scott McTominay got them out of a terrible, a losing position to get a point or to get 3. I didn't look up exactly how much. It had to be 6 times to 8 times where they came from behind and ended up scrounging points. So I don't think that I mean, I think it'll be a challenge to go there, but I don't. If you just like look on paper based on their performances and their players, I don't think that it's as much of a challenge as it might actually present as more difficult.
Yeah, and I do think the possession style of Slot, rather than, I suppose, the pressing of Klopp, I think it does suit Liverpool a bit better going away from home and breaking down that low block. It's side to side, it's backwards, forwards. It's very intricate. Sometimes it's too intricate, if I'm completely honest. Sometimes it does feel like we're trying to pass the ball into the back of the net. But listen, I'm not criticising that at all, because when that clicks, you know, I generally think that goal of the season that wasn't with a Salah chance last week, you know, later on in the year, that goes in, and that's a goal of the season. And you don't score one of those. When that clicks, you score several, you know, and that's what Slot's working on. We saw it in pre-season, and hopefully that's something that he can bring in. Talking of Arne Slot, it's obviously his first game against Manchester United, not including the pre-season friendly, since becoming Liverpool head coach. None of the Reds' last 9 bosses have won their first league meeting with Manchester United since the great Bob Paisley beat them in November 1975 3-1. George Kay is the only Liverpool manager to win his first away league game against United. 1936, and we won that 5-2. So again, you know, Slot can already put himself down amongst the greats. You know, with a win tomorrow, not only is he potentially up for winning his first 3 games as Liverpool manager, and we know that not very many people have done that. They didn't. Not very many people in the past decade have won their first 1, let alone their first 3. So Arne Slot has got a massive, you know, opportunity to do very, very well tomorrow, and hopefully he gets the job done, because, like I say, you know, Liverpool do look as though they are primed to beat Manchester United. That being said, you know, I said this 3 times last season, and we failed in all 3, so we'll see. Let's talk about the defence then, because assuming that he plays stitches, this will be Virgil van Dijk's 200th Premier League game for Liverpool. And out of those 199 games, he's won 139, which is already the most wins by any player who in their first 200 games, you know. So Van Dijk is such a colossus. He's so good. He's so important to the team. He's our captain. He's our leader. Yes, we're not going to talk about the contract situation. I'm pretty sure he'll get done, hopefully. That Liverpool defence this season, we've got 2 clean sheets back-to-back. Back-to-back clean sheets didn't happen too often under Klopp, because it was a different style of football. And again, I don't want to compare Slot style to Klopp style, but at the same time, it does bring a bit of confidence keeping those clean sheets. And yes, I know it's Ipswich and Brentford, but Brentford did score 3 today as well. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, I think there's a meme that goes around that has got Van Dijk on it saying, "I love the smell of clean sheets." And, you know, absolutely, it's the bedrock of any kind of challenge, any kind of, you know, successful season is built on a solid defense. And it hasn't gone amiss to me to realize that last season we conceded first so many times, and we were having to constantly come back into games. Do you know what I mean? And it's challenging. It's challenging, and having that kind of solid defense gives you a real, you know, building block to go from. And it's interesting actually, because when you talk about Klopp and Arne's styles, I actually think if you look at the defenders we've got, this style probably suits them better. If you take someone like Konate, I know we all love his attributes, but the reality is towards the end of last season, he wasn't in great form. Yes, he had some injuries, but he just had the recovery pace to clean up his own messes a lot last year. But as you saw in the game last week, and when he came on against Ipswich, the style seems to suit him better, and it suits his attributes better. His speed, his aggression to win the tackle, the patient build-up means that he's probably seeing the game better rather than the game coming at him all the time.
And I don't want to come across you like with Konate, sorry, because you've made such a good point. And I genuinely think Trent not playing in that 6, you know, in that inverted wing back helps Konate so much, because he's not having to look to the right to cover Trent as well. He can just get on with his job, and that makes his job so much easier by not having 2 minds. You know, it's hard enough playing centre back in a game of 90 minutes, let alone having to cover for right back. So I think you're absolutely spot on the money with him not having to do that.
Yeah, I would say though. So I did see Trent going into that sixth position in some instances against Brentford, right? But
Yes, yeah, he did.
he wasn't having to. So here's the thing: the agenda around Trent and his defending. I've always said, I challenge you to give me any other fullback in world football that you rate and put them into a Klopp system where once the ball's transitioned and we're on the attacking transition, you're the expectation is that you're over the halfway line, right? So if the ball turns over, you're always going to be making recovery runs, right? And chasing back the game. I challenge you to give me a fullback that you think can play that style better than Trent, right?
There's
Because
only
yes,
only
you are
one
going
for
to.
me.
And yeah, who's that? I'll be interested to hear who that is. But I just think actually what we've seen with Trent since Slot's come in is that he's actually been very good defensively. I thought he was impressive against Brentford. I think it was in the first 5 minutes where he's running and he's closed someone down and he's just crunching tackle, just taking everything. And the more defensive aspects of his game. And I think that's because we have a more patient build-up. Yes, we do counter-attack at times, but we're more patient. So if the ball transitions, he's already in a defensive position. And you're right, Kanate doesn't have to make those runs into the wide area where he's getting pulled out of shape, pulled away from Van Dijk. So they're more compact, right? So I think defensively, our setup on the slot actually is a lower risk setup, which allows the attributes of some of those players on the defensive side to shine through rather than being stretched, making recovery runs and having to do a lot more 1v1 defending, which was literally every attack we faced last season. So I think that's great. It's also great having the best keeper in the world behind all of that, who has nothing to do for 89 minutes and then pulls out an absolute worldie out of nowhere. Talking defensively as well, last year, whenever we gave away set pieces, I was nervous. This year, we seem to be defending set pieces a lot better. Touch wood, I don't want to jinx us, but it seems that our set piece setup is a lot more solid. And we're a lot more capable of dealing with the threats that we receive from set pieces. And the greatest litmus test of that was Brentford. Brentford are adept at creating opportunities from set pieces. They put a lot of high box balls into that box. They win the second ball, and we faced up to that really well last week. So again, that gives me confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about you mentioned the defense. No team has had more shots, so we're going to talk about the attacking mid, the Liverpool in the Premier League this season with 37, and the Reds also have the highest expected goals, so chances and conversions, etc., 5.3. But again, going back to your point about we look so much better defensively, we have the lowest expected goals against us, which is only one so far. Okay, so only one. I know we've kept 2 clean sheets, but it was actually, if you go on the XGs and you go on the chances, we was actually only expected to concede 1. And the fact that we kept 2 clean sheets, again, it goes to your point. I don't think Andy Robertson, or I do think Andy Robertson will eventually adapt to this, but I just don't think at the moment he's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's never been asked to do that. He's the marauding fullback. He goes past, he overlaps, he gets inside, he crosses the ball. He's absolutely fantastic. He's a flying Scotsman. He'll be one of my favourite ever Liverpool players, but I think under this new system, he's got a lot to learn with the ball at his feet because he's never really had to do that before. The only other right back who could defend and attack both extremely well for me is Cafu. And again, that might be because he had such a good team, that actually didn't have to defend that often. But when he did, he had such a good team around him, so he's the only one I would say that does that Trent job better.
Even Cafu tips his hat to Trent.
Oh, he does. He probably rates Trent. Yeah,
because he understands.
Yeah.
Because when that ball gets turned over by our DMs or our centre backs, Trent's on the fly. He's over the halfway line already. And then if the ball gets lost, he's got to make that recovery run where, opposition have been exploiting that because as soon as they get it, they play it into that area, knowing that Trent's going to be running the other way. And none of the pundits seem to want to talk about that. You know,
Nah, of course not. And that's the Liverpool way. It's always risk versus reward. And 9 times out of 10, there was a bigger reward than there was a risk. You know, with Trent playing that. Dani Alves comes close to Cafu, I think. But again, if you put Trent in that Barcelona squad, you know, if you put Trent in that Barcelona squad, he does exactly the same for me as what Danny did, if not better. But yeah, Dani Alves absolutely phenomenal as well. I mean, you know, these fullbacks are a different breed who can attack and defend well. And you know, it always makes me laugh because, much to the demise of myself and also the hatred that I get in LFC transfer rooms group chats that I do follow England, Trent was actually the best defensive right back when you look at tackles, duels, aerial duels, interceptions won, etc., than the rest of them. So actually, defensively, it's a myth that he's poor. It's not. It's the way that Klopp played that system, you know. And sometimes, yes, he was out of position because he was playing in a 6.
Yeah,
that's the risk and reward that we're talking about. Colin, let's talk about our midfield then, and I'm going to keep it quite open, really, because you know I personally really like our midfield of Grav, of Mac, and Zabozla, and then obviously you've got the likes of Elliott who can come in, and Jones, who is out with we think he missed a day of training, so we think he's not going to be ready for Sunday. He could be one of those. Endo we saw come off the bench as well. Morton didn't get a loan move. Bajcetic did. That midfield there, once all fit and fighting, or when they are all fit and fighting, I'm okay with. Again, we're not talking transfers. That's done. We could have gone in and we could have got the depth in there, the quality of depth. But again, you know, when we look at... I did not want to go into any transfers. But, you know, the likes of Mason Mount will be out for 5 weeks. Now, I was quite impressed, actually, with Mason Mount and his pressing in that false 9 when him and Bruno were rotating, especially against Brighton. I was very impressed with him, and obviously, you know, he went off at half time. As we've already said, there's no McTominay, no Mount. For me, you've got Bruno in there. You can't have an Ugarte in there. It feels quite light. And for once, Liverpool actually might win a midfield battle. And if you do that at Old Trafford, you give yourself a double chance of winning that game.
Yeah, I mean, so it's going to have to be Bruno, Mainu, and Casemiro, right? I don't think there's any injuries.
You would have thought so. And in fairness, I'm as much as I despise Manchester United, and if I've not said that enough, I want everyone to know I hate them with every fibre of my being. I am so impressed with Kobbie Mainoo. I think he's brilliant.
I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's bad. Maybe not quite as good as you know some people would rate him. But if you're you know talking about just like pure matchup, you know I think that's a matchup nightmare for United. I think that's like a massive problem. So much so that I wouldn't be surprised if something is not exactly as we've mentioned it, whether or not it's going to be like maybe a difference in shape or how they're covering the middle. I think if you try to go like as a 3 versus the 3, I think United are going to get run around. You know, Casemiro has no legs. We've all seen the clip from last season of him attempting a tackle against Michael Olise and Crystal Palace that made the rounds on social. Like it's bad. He and the one thing you can say for Szoboszlai so far is that in his season, which is he's run his tail off, constantly. He has just run for 90 minutes and just absolutely torn it up, which is a massive problem. I don't think anybody in that United midfield can match in that way. So I think Gravenberch is so athletic, so long, so silky with the ball, and then McAllister. Maybe we're not seeing the best. Maybe we're not seeing all of the best attributes from him. When he's a little deeper like that, his scoring prowess is phenomenal. But he is so good at all of the little things. I really, if you think that United might kind of hybrid press in the midfield, You could see Mainu against McAllister in a lot of situations. You can see Bruno against Gravenberch. I think that's a real problem for them.
See, for me, would you want that switched over? Because I would want McAllister up against Bruno and Grav up against Mainu.
I think whoever's going up against McAllister is going to lose that battle.
And that's why I would say Bruno.
Yeah,
I mean, I personally think that Bruno is their engine. He is the one he's the orchestrator in that midfield. He makes everything tick. And I want McAllister up against Bruno because I don't think Bruno gets a sniff. If Matt goes up against him, then that's not a slight on Grav at all.
Yeah.
But I just think, athleticism, dynamism, Gravenberch is better suited to go up against Mainu. And listen, if Casemiro's not on his game,
he's going to
get Bosley.
He's going to run,
and that's where it's going to. That I personally think when you look at the matchups, that's where the game is going to be won. Is Bosley and Casemiro, or your Elliott and Casemiro? Because I think you both of those two, I'd even be half tempted to go 45 and 45 and run your socks off at him for 45 minutes, knacker yourself out, play a 90-minute match in 45 minutes. Then we'll bring the next one on and do exactly the same again because that's where you're going to win the game.
Here's the only tactical thing I think with Mainu maybe matching up against Gravenberch is that stretches Mainu up the field high and leaves, I think, a lot of space in behind him, which honestly, that might be a more preferable option for Liverpool. Like Liverpool might actually want that because I think that will leave Mainu so far up the field in some situations when we're kind of building out of our defensive third. If Mainu's going to match up in and we've seen United do this, they do sort of a hybrid press where it's sort of zonal, and the moment that it goes into a fullback or whatever the trigger point is, then it becomes more man match. And if Mainu is pushed all the way up there against Gravenberch, I really think that they're going to have a really difficult time filling the space in behind, which, maybe I should be putting money on Luis Diaz to be having like the game of his life, because I think the space in that area there is going to be huge. I think it's going to be massive. So maybe him coming inside from that as Mainu's being dragged down, I think it'd be a huge... regardless of what happens specifically with the tactics, I think that honestly, United's ability to kind of deal with how good Liverpool's midfield have been so far is where this game is going to be made. I think how they're able or how they're going to try to handle the midfield is going to make or break whether or not they're going to have a successful day. I think Liverpool can still have a successful day if their midfield does really well. If United's midfield does really well, but if United's midfield does not do really well, I think they're in for a long 90 minutes.
I think. Sorry, go on. I was just going to say Taz makes a really good point here about needing to nullify the threats, because Manchester United are a counter-attacking team at the minute, and they definitely will try to set up that way. Don't give them space, and without space, they don't play well. I absolutely agree with that. Garnacho, Diallo, Rashford, they do go in hard for space. Now, listen, talk about Rashford. He has only scored more goals against Leicester City in all competitions than he has against Liverpool. He scored 8 against Leicester. He scored 7 against Liverpool. I always say back Rashford to score against Liverpool, especially at Old Trafford, because he loves it. He hasn't scored. He hasn't even had a shot in the Premier League this season in 155 minutes. And for me, under Ten Hag, he is still their leading goal scorer with 38 games. Rashford is an absolute threat. But that midfield battle, you nullify it. I can see another game where maybe Rashford is frustrated, and that midfield battle is so key. And Stitches, I came across you there. Sorry. So I just wanted to put in that little bit about Marcus Rashford, because he's still their threat going forwards, even though he's not had a shot. He loves playing against Liverpool. You're muted. It happens to the best of us. Don't worry.
Yeah, talking away on the mute. Look, I'm backing him to get a shot off tomorrow. They just listen, as much as and you make a very good point, Colin, when you talk about their mental infortitude as a team. I think you make a very good point. But what you will have is that they will start the game up for it. Yeah, the first 10, 15 minutes of the match is going to be a mental and physical battle. And we absolutely have to win that. And then we earn the right to play. Because it's a derby. Yeah, forget
Yeah.
Everton for a second. This is a derby match. You have to
It's
win
a
that.
Northwest derby. Always
Yeah,
been the Northwest
absolutely.
derby.
You've got to win the right to play your football first, and we have to win that battle. When Slot talks about winning your challenges, winning your individual battles, it's incredibly important when you go to Old Trafford that you do that, so that they don't steamroll you, because they're going to come at you to start with. Rashford's going to be making those runs. I think Taz makes excellent points about where their threats lie in the wide areas, and it's going to be about how we deal with those threats, and how compact we can be when that happens. And Gravenberch, I want to take a minute to just sing his praises, because everyone's banging on about we need a 6, right? And everyone's banging on about we didn't have a plan B. Well, maybe Gravenberch was the plan B. Maybe that's the reason that we're not necessarily going out to get somebody that isn't perfect, because we've got someone that may just be able to do the job. And he's getting the trust from the manager at the moment. I think the last 2 games he's been very, very good. I think this is the game where we're really going to find out if it really can work, right? And I think he's going to have an incredibly pivotal role to play, both on and off the ball. His athleticism, and sometimes when I watch him, I see shades of Ginny Wijnaldum, right? And I think if he could pull out a classic Ginny Wijnaldum performance for us tomorrow, it's going to be so immense. We know what we're going to get from McAllister. We know what we're going to get from Szoboszlai. That's the key question for us in that midfield. But back to the point, I completely agree, despite what Gary Neville thinks, that we have a supreme midfield in comparison to them. He's still not giving our midfield the respect it deserves. He still thinks that they have a midfield that's better, which is laughable for someone who should know better, who's vastly more experienced than I am. But it's so clear and obvious. You don't need VAR, right, to know that our midfield is light years ahead of them. But nevertheless, we will have to win that battle in midfield. We will have to win our individual battles. And then when we do that, it gives us the platform to go and dominate the game. And I truly believe that we will win the battle tomorrow in that area. I just think we're equipped in every different way possible in terms of the threats that they could bring to us. Whereas I see the flaws in their midfield. Casemiro, for me, is relying on experience to play the game at the moment.
And I think he relies on adrenaline, like Casemiro as well. He needs that. He needs the fans. He needs to be up for it. When you see Old Trafford or when they're away from home, he's a completely different player when Old Trafford is quiet, because he thrives, absolutely thrives on the passion of the game. And you see him fly into tackles and you think, yeah, that's why that bloke has won what he's won, because that's the quality of him. And, you know, I don't want to say, because I don't believe that it's true. I really don't. As much as, again, I will highlight how much I hate them with every fibre of my being. It's not a retirement home yet, Manchester United. It is still a quality football club that is looking to go places. They're still spending copious amounts of money to try and improve their team. We've seen that, you know, for the past 10 seasons. I just don't think they've made very good signings in the past 10 seasons, apart from maybe Bruno Fernandes. But at the same time, like, Casemiro thrives off a big atmosphere. And like Colin and yourself said as well, Stitch, is like, for the first 10, you almost ride that out. You kill that atmosphere. You don't give them anything. Rashford, who thrives in space, you frustrate him, as Taz said in the chat as well. You just have to kill that first 10 minutes, much like what so many teams do at Anfield. And for me, if you can nullify Casemiro, you take away the threat of Rashford, Bruno Fernandes gets frustrated, he gets petulant, he throws his arms up in the air, and you're looking at a 5-0, a 7-0, a 5-1, a 3-0, you know, whatever the scoreline might be. I just think the threat is, if we're not controlled in those first 10, 15 minutes, the game could get away from us as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Just a couple of things I want to point out. I think it's very important to frustrate Bruno. Because then the petulance comes out. Then he starts getting onto his teammates and he brings the whole like, ambience down in the team. And I think we need to let that happen. I know you mentioned him and you mentioned Rashford as the threats. I'm actually looking elsewhere at the threat. I think there are two players that I worry about. One is Garnacho, because of his natural pace, and the other is Zerki, or however you pronounce his name.
Yeah, because
He
he'll
looks a
start
player.
tomorrow because Mount's out, you know.
Yeah, so
So
he looks a player. He's a physical specimen. He's technically very good, and I think if he starts tomorrow, we're gonna have to handle him. We're gonna have to handle him. I think he could be a problem. Yeah, I think with Bruno, we have the tools and capabilities to deal with him. I think with Rashford, again, I think we have the ability to deal with him in the wide areas if we're compact. It's the Zerk. He's the unknown quantity for me. That Zerk. What I've seen of them so far, he's looked like he could be a problem. When he settles.
yeah, and the only thing that I would say is if it is Ibu and Van Dijk, I would hope that one of them just sits on him. You know, he's 21, I think 2021.
Yeah.
Sit on him. Hello, welcome to the Premier League. This is who you're up against. You know, I'm Virgil van Dijk. I'm the best there is and the best there was.
Yeah.
And this is what you're going to be up against. You know, you've got to give someone like that an early kick, a little rake down the Achilles. And listen, I played rugby. I played football. You do what you can to take an advantage, right? This isn't ballet. And, you know, if someone's better than you or they've got something over on you, I'm advocating do what it takes to win that battle. Yeah. Listen, let's go to the other end then of the pitch because we work our way, you know, back to front. There's only one player who stands out is obviously Mohamed Salah. He's already netted twice for Liverpool this season. He's the highest scoring visiting player to Old Trafford in Premier League history. Okay, so in Premier League history, think of all of the greats. Think of the Alan Shearers. Think of the Thierry Henrys. Think of the Dennis Bergkamps, the Didier Drogba's, the Wayne... Oh, no, not Wayne Rooney because he played for Everton. He wouldn't have scored against them because Everton are garbage. But think about all of those great players. Salah is the highest scoring player at Old Trafford who is not playing for Manchester United. That's phenomenal. He's netted in each of his last 6 away games to United in all competitions, and he's got 11 goals in total. He actually outscores Manchester United as a team themselves. So, like, if you take Salah's goals since he's been playing for Liverpool, he's got 11. Manchester United have 9. So he's actually outscored the whole of the Man United team. He loves playing Manchester United, essentially. He's got 18 goals and assists against them. It's the highest goals and assists that he's got against any team. And we're not talking, and I mean no disrespect to the Norwiches, the Leicesters. I'm going to include my own team as well, apart from Liverpool, Peterborough in that, you know, because I'm sure we would bag against them. But it's Manchester United, you know, it's one of the best teams in English football. For him to have that record, Colin, is absolutely phenomenal. And for me, I just see him scoring at the moment every time he's on that pitch, you know, and if he scores again tomorrow, I can see him getting 2 or 3.
Yeah, the bet that I have sitting in my betting app is Salah with two or more shots on goal. I think it's nailed on. He is at the moment the ageless wonder. He's defying what the expectation of someone who has played the amount of minutes and is the age that he is. He's defying what the expectations of of that person should be. I think a lot of what we can do this year will be dependent on how far he takes us. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way for the rest of the team. I think that there are just they're just our talismans. And sometimes, leaders in the way that you wouldn't, obviously he's not the captain. But he leads in a way that kind of drags the team to results. Drags the team to performances.
Yeah.
I think tomorrow is the perfect opportunity for yet another all-time Mo Salah performance. Just so happens that it can come at Old Trafford. Very, very similar vibe, I think, to the 5-0 game in 21.
Yeah, can I just speak on Mo for a second? And I see the online fans, and whenever I've been down to Anfield and spoken to people, I just get this vibe that people don't realize the talent that we have in this guy. I remember when Mo was first signed, and he absolutely destroyed it in his first season, and people were like, "Oh, it's just a one season wonder." What are we, 6, 7 seasons on now? Still posting up the numbers in terms of goals, goal involvement, assists, and goals every season. And I think it reminds me of, there's a Biggie Smalls lyric in one of his, I can't remember the verbatim, but along the lines of "until you're gone," where he says dead, people don't realize that's when you become real famous. And I think he's one of those players that when he eventually bows out at Anfield and the annals of history look back at what he's done, that is when you're gonna really realize. And I don't know why our fan base don't eulogize about him in the way that I feel we should. And I know we rate him, but I don't think we really rate him. Do you know what I mean? We still love people like Torres or Suarez over Mo, and I don't get it because I was having discussions with other fans previously, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we just got to get rid of Mo this season," and they said it so casually. And I'm sitting there thinking, do you realize what you're saying? The amount of goal involvements and goals scored and goals created that we lose out of the team now. Look, LFC for life, right? The club is greater than any player, but you don't casually just talk about getting rid of a player that is responsible for such a huge proportion of your goals without some kind of concern and trepidation in terms of how are we going to post those numbers up. People are going to have to take that mantle on. And I don't expect another individual player to come along and do what Mo's doing. It's going to have to be shared out amongst the front line in a different way. But it's weird to me that we don't see it. Now, Mo this season is looking frightening. He's looking frightening. And they started off blisteringly already, which is why I've captained him over Haaland this week. Because I just feel like it's destiny. It's written for Mo to be the difference maker tomorrow. And I believe he will be. And I think, in a weird way, if we want to talk about United's defensive line, I think they're stronger in the fullback areas this season. Darlow seems to have found his
decent player, quite like him.
Decent. They've brought this new right back who's quite impressed me. Mazraoui. He's really impressed me, actually.
Yeah.
And I thought he's a player. So Diaz and Mo are going to be pivotal tomorrow in terms of how they handle that individual battles with those two fullbacks. I think in the center of defense is where they're the weakest. Obviously,
I think the Lit will start.
Yeah, I think the Lit will start, but are they cohesive yet? Have they merged? Do you know what I'm saying? They're forming a partnership.
I don't think
he's ready. I don't think he's ready for the intensity of the Prem because he gets a lot of injuries. He's got good abilities.
Wasn't Eric Dyer playing over him last year?
He was
at Bayern,
at Bayern. So it is an embarrassment, and I just think it's going to be a shock to the system, and it's going to go one of two ways. He's absolutely going to have a blinder, or he's going to be lost. Especially if you put him beside Maguire, which I hope they do, but I don't see it happening. I think they're going to go for the little angry guy instead.
Yeah, the butcher.
The butcher.
Love it. Yeah. Goals incoming. I'm ready.
Either way, Mo absolutely murdered him the last time out. I don't think he knew whether he was coming or going. He was left, right, didn't know which direction to look in. So, I think in the center is where they're weak. I think out wide, they're a bit stronger. I still trust our players to be able to cause them problems, especially in the form that they're both in this season so far. If you're looking at how Diaz is performing, my question mark on him has always been, what's the end product? Looks really good on the eye, but what do we get at the end? Do we get an assist or do we get a goal? Or do we get a key pass? And I wasn't seeing that last season, but I have seen that in the last 2 games, and Mo's just being prime Mo. I almost feel tempted at some point in the game for Nunes to get unleashed on those 2 centre backs, right? Because I think it's going to be carnage. It's going to be complete carnage. But Jota is Jota the Slaughter, so you can't leave him out. Can't leave
Yeah.
him out. That's the part of the battle that I'm looking forward to the most, because I think it's so stacked in our favour that it's going to be crazy.
I think when we talk about Mo, I have a 2-leg bet slip in my in my Sky Bet account, and I'm not advocating betting or anything like that. You do whatever makes you feel happy. But if you do like a flutter, there is a nice 17-1 on Sky Bet that Mohamed Salah to score and Salah to get a yellow card. And he's actually only picked up 5 yellow cards in his Liverpool career. 4 have come against Manchester United for taking his top off and celebrating when he scored against them. So if you do want a little flutter, 50p, 25p, whatever, 17-1 is not a bad bet. Yeah. So that's what I've gone for. Talking about Salah, he is, for me, in the top 5 Liverpool players of all time. And I'm not talking about football talent, because there's no debate. Luis Suarez was a better footballer in terms of technical ability. And I think Mo perhaps sometimes gets a little bit of stick because he's not aesthetically pleasing on the eye. But for me, he's had 10 times the amount of impact that a Suarez or a Torres has ever had. And you just have to look at his trophy cabinet to see that. You just have to look at his stats. In 351 games, so 351 for Liverpool, he scored 213 goals and assisted 90. So if you're looking at the GA on that, it's 303 GAs, goals or assists, in 351. That's not to be done again in recent times.
Yeah, that's not.
That isn't. It's not going to happen in recent times. So for me, when everyone's like, Mo might go, I'm like, well, if he is next season on a free, go and make sure he don't, because you are not going to, 1, replace that, and 2, he's a generational superstar for Liverpool Football Club. And what I absolutely loved is the fact that he came like a Chiesa has come in, a little bit of an underdog. He signed for 35 million. Everyone's like, well, he failed at Chelsea. They got rid of him. And he went from Fiorentina to Roma, and he was all right at Roma. And for me, that's so special that we made a Mohamed Salah, one of the best to ever do it in a Liverpool shirt. And I agree with Taz. Listen, I loved Luis Suarez. Yes, he put his body on the line, but so does Mo. Yes, he wore his heart on the sleeve, but so does Mo. For me, Salah surpasses Suarez in terms of everything Liverpool legend style, apart from perhaps being a better footballer. I think Salah is so underrated, and for me, nothing happens if it wasn't for Mo. No league titles, no Champions League, no FA Cup, no League Cup, no Super Cup, etc., etc. Nothing happens if it's not for Mo. And I just think it's baffling that it's a little bit blasé. I think it's more online, if I'm honest, because true football fans who go to the games, I think, who don't hide behind the avatars on social media, people appreciate Mo, and that's why this channel is so good, because we all appreciate Mo as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a decade on both of you. Just so you know, right? So I've seen some things, right? And I have had conversations in Anfield where I'm stunned. The people grumbling because Mo's done something, or I should have passed it, or and I'm just thinking, man, the agenda's crazy. There's a channel that we won't mention, and a certain individual pundit who the other day was discussing whether he was world class or not, and I was just like, why is this even a discussion?
It's not in reality.
Look stupid. Come on. How is it even a debate whether the guy's world class or not? It's completely nonsensical. It's unbelievable. And I truly believe once he's gone, he's going to get the flowers that he deserves.
Yeah,
I've even seen Liverpool fans discussing that he goes missing at certain points in the season, and their whole argument was when we needed him this and when we needed him that, he wasn't there. And my only retort to all of that is, would we have been in those positions without Mo's goals or created chances?
Right.
Would we be in a Champions League final without Mo? Would we be playing in those critical games where you feel that he's gone missing without him? I remember exactly what happened when we played Real Madrid the first time on the clock. We were absolutely tearing them a new one because Mo was having his way with Ramos. They couldn't handle him. And then Ramos done the judo lock hold and dislocated his shoulder or whatever it was. And then the game completely changed. That's how
one
much
of the and one
It's
of the best. You know
ridiculous.
what? As much as I hate him for doing it, one of the best things I've ever seen on a football pitch is what Ramos did to Mo Salah, because it won him the Champions League final.
Absolutely. He knew they couldn't handle this guy. He was like, this guy is having his way with us without Vaseline at will, right? I need to take care of this. And he did.
Something that you said though as well, like when he leaves, he'll get his flowers. We're seeing that at the moment with Sadio. With Sadio Mane, because we're saying about our left side. Yeah, Diaz does not have that end product that Sadio Mane did. But again, that's what made Sadio Mane special. But I've done this channel now for it must be about 5 or 6 years, and I remember being on podcasts, being on streams, and we have people saying, "Oh, we need to sell Mane. We need to sell Mane." Now he's gone. Everyone's like, "Oh, we need a Mane."
We need him back.
And the same thing will happen with Salah. The same thing will happen, and you're never going to appreciate a Mo Salah because no one can put up those numbers that Mo has. You could go out and I don't know who the best upcoming right winger is in the world, but no one can still do that. I generally think, again, maybe I'm being a bit naive just because he's young, but a Vinny, I would say, is perhaps the best apart from Mo. He couldn't put up those numbers. He might do when he gets to Mo's age, but at the moment he can't. Ronaldo didn't do it at the Prem. And Ronaldo
season after season, you think some of the greats that have come through the Prem, if you want to look at the raw numbers, you're talking about the likes of Henry, Gianfranco Zola, players that are in any conversation, people don't even debate it. They're just like, he's amazing. They're amazing. But then it comes to Mo, who's posted more numbers than these guys, who statistically not even on the same level, he's above these guys, but he won't. It's just like, I like him, but it's a weird dynamic, completely weird dynamic.
Yeah, and like I said, I just genuinely think it's he looks a bit scruffy at times in terms of his touch, in terms of his pass. He doesn't link a play sometimes that well. It's like he passes the ball in runs, but he's already running before he passes the ball, so therefore the pass never makes it. And I think it's those little bits where you're like, oh, technically he's not a Luis Suarez, or and I think that's perhaps where a little bit of criticism comes into his game, because he's not that aesthetically pleasing player, and he's not I don't know, he isn't your Kevin De Bruyne, or he's not your Steven Gerrard, or he's not your Xabi Alonso in terms of actual football technical ability. But his game is scoring goals and assisting and creating, and the raw pace that he has. So, Mo, for me, like I said, hopefully he scores tomorrow, not just because I've captained him like you have as well, and not gone with Haaland at all, which I'm a decision that I'm very much regretting at the moment. But listen, Mo, Diaz and Jota has got to be the front three. And what's really interesting is that you've got a Nunez, you've got a Gakpo to come on. And now we have a new signing, Federico Chiesa, who is unlikely to be involved because Arne Slot said he's going to train with us today, but it's a bigger chance that he is not in the squad for Sunday than he is. What's good about this is that Chiesa has actually not been called up to the Italy squad. So he will stay on Merseyside, and that benefits us hugely because, oh my gosh, Colin, what a player we could have on our hands for £10 million. And I know I said this before, Birmingham City signed Jay Steinston for 15 million with 5 million plus add-ons, and that's a League One team. So listen, say what you want about FSG, but if you can tie down a Federico Chiesa or Fede Chiesa, who we would have paid at least, I actually wrote an article. I did actually write an article before we went to Juventus saying that Liverpool were willing to break the bank for him 3-4 years ago. He absolutely ripped England a new.
That was the Euro. That was the Euro summer. That was like
the Euro final. It was the final. Euro 21 because obviously it was delayed. He ran the show on that final. He was fantastic. If you can even get a third of the player for that price, you get a third of the player.
If you think as well that his wages are under 100k, from what I understand,
he didn't take for more. I think he took the same pay.
He took the same pay that he's on at Juventus, which is nuts. And then add to it,
he should have taken more money.
Just the context. How much did United pay for Anthony?
85.
Yeah, 80, 85, 86. Yeah,
like you have to laugh. You have to laugh.
I mean, listen, when even you look at, Sterling was a very, very good winger. And I'm not knocking that at all. But, Chelsea is still paying 150 grand for him to go on loan to Arsenal, their rivals.
Yeah.
We're paying
Yeah.
85 grand a week for
Insane.
Chiesa now. You know, you can say what you want, honestly, about
Yeah.
FSG, and I'm neither for or against, but that Chiesa deal, if you're
Business.
getting it, that is decent business. You know,
That is good
even if you get him for 25 games of the season, that's great business. And listen, that injury record, yes, he's done his ACL, but he still played 33 games for Juve last season.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Listen, an ACL is not. You know, I'm as deep into NFL football as I am into the Premier League. I can tell you, like, an ACL is not like a career defining injury any longer.
Well, look at Verge. Look at Verge.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it does. You do have to have some context around it, and you can't just expect someone to, like Virgil when he came back from it, just be like the same person immediately. It's a different kind of recovery. It's not just something that you're just like back and you're totally fine again immediately when you're cleared. You have to regain. It's not just strength, but it's dexterity, and it's like fine tune twitch movement, like that kind of stuff takes a lot longer. His record after the ACL is like totally fine. It's absolutely normal. I think I saw the total package of his transfer fee and all his entire contract's wages are paid for by the Carvalho sale.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That's we need not see anything else. Like that is the FSG model working to its absolute peak and epitome. You know, like that's as good as it gets. You know, I'm not going to sit here. We don't have to talk about transfers. I'm not going to sit here and stump for maybe the entirety of the business we've done. But like that bit of business is unquestionable. Like I will not hear arguments against it. It's perfect. Like that is exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Listen,
and you talk about sorry, just to throw in the medical science behind injuries like that now. You know, decades ago, that's probably career ending.
Yeah.
It's not now. You know, you mentioned Verge. Think about Gomez and the number of serious injuries he's had.
Yeah.
And, you know, towards the end of last season, he became a pivotal player for us, started coming back to himself. And I'm glad we didn't sell him on a different note. And I just think, what a wonderful transfer. That is just, as you said, perfect in terms of what we need. So very, very happy with that one. And what it does, I think, as well, is it gives us the option to maybe rest Salah a little bit, because the number of minutes that Salah puts up, right? No wonder he gets to the final furlong of the season and maybe wanes a little bit, because we rely on him so much. So maybe this gives us the option to maybe rest him a little bit and get some of those minutes into Chiesa.
Bologna at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also one for me that when Salah didn't play last season, yes, we had Diaz, who I actually thought did a tremendous job in right midfield. Yeah, I mean, I was really happy with him, and I thought actually, if we don't sign a right winger / forward, whatever you want to call it, I thought Diaz could do a good job there. But again, you know, it is building for the future. Chiesa has his peak yet to come, I think, if I'm honest. You know, most footballers hit their prime 28, 29. So, yeah, I think it was a great bit of business. Listen, as we wind down, because I did promise you both, and I am so sorry, we'd only go for 40, 45 minutes, but it's Liverpool Man United. Like, I love it. I love it. Like, it's the best game.
When the chat is good, the chat is good. You know.
Yeah, that's it. And we haven't even gotten to the predictions yet. So, listen, there are just over 3,500 people who have stayed with us so far. So thank you so much for spending your Saturday nights with us. Please, could you put your predictions in? I know that some of you have done it already, so I'm going to try to bring up a couple of those. But honestly, if you've not done it already, do it, and I will bring up every single prediction as we are talking about it. And Colin, I'm going to go with you first, and I'll go last. What's your prediction? And listen, you don't have to give me every single goal scorer, all right? If you're predicting another 7-0, you don't have to predict all 7 scorers, but just give me your prediction and then give us your goal scorer.
Yeah, I've got 2-0 to Liverpool. I've got Salah with a goal and an assist. I don't know who. I suspect that the second goal will come late. I think it will be. I think it's going to be a cagey affair. I don't think it's early in the season. There's always nerves, but I like how we match up against them. your point earlier, Stitch, is that, Xerxes, I like him as a player, but I think his weaknesses or his strengths are exactly what Virgil and Ibu handle the best. So I think we keep another clean sheet. I think we go 2-0.
Okay.
2-0 does seem to be a good scoreline. I love a 2-0 because that's a Mourinho classic. When it was in charge of Chelsea,
Great stuff.
A 2-0, like absolute classic scoreline. Control the game, score your chances, and defend well.
Be boring,
Stitches.
I was going to go 2-0 as well. I think Mo Salah gets on the score sheet, and I think the Slaughter gets another one. He fired some blanks last week, but I think he'll be back. However, because you've gone 2-0, and I think we have to be a bit different, I'm going to go 2-1. I think maybe they sneak a goal, some controversial decision or something, maybe. So I'll go 2-1. But I see a Liverpool win.
I'll go for the hat-trick of Liverpool wins because I have never and never will say that we would draw or lose. I think I will go 3-2 and I'll reverse the game from last season. I think it's too big of a game for Man United to sit back. I think they've got to go for it. I think Liverpool will be comfortable. I think he might go 3-1 and then they get a late goal. But yeah, I'll go 3-2 and Salah to score. And I would love nothing more than for Núñez to get the third goal that actually wins it for Liverpool, just for his confidence more so than anything else as well. Because, I don't know. I mean, maybe a Núñez stan, but I just think he's a game player. You could look at Salah and you could go, he doesn't need a goal, whereas I do think Darwin does. Listen, all strikers need goals, obviously, but for me at the minute, Darwin coming back, etc. I just think I'd like to see him score.
I'd love that. I'd absolutely love that. To be fair, yeah.
Any last thoughts, lads, before we sign off tonight?
The best kind of nerves. To your point earlier from the beginning, I'm nervous, but I love it. That's the best.
Yeah, nervous apprehension. Yeah, it's good. It's good nerves, and if it goes our way, it's even better. I just wanted to say, Jay Muse asked a question to me. My boys are at Crystal Palace. Jay Muse. I have two of them in the system, under 12 and under 9. Yeah.
So I didn't put that up because it's personal to you. But thank you for answering that. And also, you said earlier you've got 10 years on me. I'm old, so what you?
I'll be 46 at my next birthday. Just so you know.
Wow.
There is an oil painting somewhere that's aging instead of me, and moisturizer. Yeah.
Mate, well, listen, I've been, again, this is completely off topic, and you'll see that 3,672 counter that everyone's watching just absolutely plummet on this. But I've literally thought, oh my gosh, my eyes are looking puffy. I need to do something about this. And I've bought into skin detergent, everything now, and I'm just like, oh my
God. Skincare's important.
Yeah,
man. So
drink lots of water. That's all I can say.
Not Red Stripe then, no.
No, well, you're allowed. That's for afterwards.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, water. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, no, that's cracking. So, good luck to you boys at Palace as well, because that's such a good system. And do you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not just saying this because I literally said it to my mates the other day. For me, the best atmosphere that one I've ever been to, but two, more importantly, is the most consistent, is Palace.
Yeah.
Their fans, and I'll always say I will give them every sort of flower that they want. I just think Palace are a top club. I really want them to do well, not at our expense, obviously, and I'll never forgive them for the 3-3. But listen, really, really, I hope they do.
Thank you. They are a good bunch there. I mean, we get tickets once in a while to go to the games, and the atmosphere is unreal.
It's electric, isn't it?
It is electric. It's pretty good. Yeah, definitely. But it doesn't trump Anfield, and it doesn't trump the cop. No matter what anyone says.
Well, I mean, in recent years, listen, again, we won't go too much into detail, but the European nights are completely different than a Premier League night or a Premier League fixture, let's say, at Anfield, because it's not, for me, been at its peak. I think the European nights are special. I think the Monday nights are special as well.
The tourist the weekend.
Yeah.
you know, and again, I don't want to say, because I would never listen. If you pay your money to go and see Liverpool, you can go and do whatever you want, as far as I'm concerned. You know,
Just
you're
wish they
buying
would
into
be
that
as loud
club.
as I would be if I was
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Listen,
I'm a tourist, but I would be loud.
yeah. You have to listen. You get carried when I've been with my boys. You get carried with the atmosphere. You can't be there and be silent. I don't understand how people go there and be silent. Like, you just listen. You have to sing. My
Makes
boys
no
are there singing. We lose our voices when we come out. And I'm like asking them, how do you even know the songs? Like, when did you learn them? It's not like we sat down learning the songs beforehand, but they just get carried away with it all. It's just the best. It's the best.
Yeah, it is. And again, like tomorrow, you will see a loud travelling cop because it's the biggest game of the season. I generally do think it's the hardest game of the season emotionally as well, going away to Old Trafford.
Yeah.
Yes, the Etihad hard. Yeah, like Goodison is hard as well. But emotionally, there's so much bad but respected blood between Liverpool and Manchester United. Now, I hate them third time with every fibre of my being, but I respect them as a club. I can't say that for City, if I'm honest. I can't say that for Chelsea.
No.
And that's why it's so much bigger, you know?
It is indeed. And I think actually what you said there is part of the problem sometimes for us. We end up playing the emotion and not
the occasion,
game. Yeah, right. Do you know what I'm saying? We play emotionally on the occasion rather than just treating it as a match. And I know you can't, because it's hard. It's hard because you can't help but get carried away. I remember listening to Karen Gerard talking about the build-up of the week leading to the match at Anfield. There's this different buzz. There's a different feeling around Anfield, around the training ground leading up to that game. You can't help but be hyped up for it. So, you know, I'm glad we've got cool customers like Virgil in the team. He seems like quite a calming presence. Do you know what I mean? So maybe he can foster that and impress that on the rest of the squad coming into the game, so that they're calm and just play their game, play your game.
Yeah. And you look, we have got a lot of cool heads like Trent. You've never seen him really get rolled up that often. Like McAllister, not really. Salah, again, not really. Szoboszlai is cool as a cucumber. Nothing seems to faze him. So hopefully, you know, and slot system, which is different. It isn't that, oh my gosh, we've got to go and do it right now. It's like softly. Yeah. You know, I think that will play into their hands too. But listen, we were only going to go for 45 minutes tonight, and we've gone for like an hour and 15. So for you two especially, thank you so much for joining, and for everybody else as well, thank you so much for joining us on your Saturday night.
Thank you guys, it's been brilliant.
I've really enjoyed it. And like I said, you know, it's the biggest game for me, not just of this, you know, current season, as in the third game, but there's no bigger game than Old Trafford away for me, apart from Anfield at home. So fingers crossed, every fibre of a boom across the line. My house will never be as tidy. So my wife will be also very, very happy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could literally like just, you know, go around everywhere and there'd be not a speck of dust through my procrastination. But listen, I really hope everybody joining us. Yeah, that's it. Well, I don't know. It depends if we win or not. If we don't win, she won't be very happy, mainly because I'll be in a mood for a week. But thank you all for joining us so much. And I really do hope that tomorrow goes our way and you enjoy your week and obviously, more importantly, your Sunday. But for now and forever, thank you so much for joining us. And as always,
thanks, guys.